Cooper Kupp officially a Seattle Seahawk. This news just breaking. Your boy here is always live when big news breaks. We go live before anybody. And you know when something like this happens to come find this channel, because you know we'll be sitting here breaking it down. Fantasy impact of this man Cooper Kupp landing in a Seahawks uniform. 3-year, $45 million deal, $15 million per year. What does it do for BTJ? What does it do for Sam Darnold? What's it do for the Seahawks team led by Kubiak, trying to get a more balanced attack? The run game, Walker, Charbonnet, are one of them on the move? Or is this running back stable in good hands with this offense? I think this offense is going to shape out pretty nicely. I think Sam Darnold and this situation's looking better and better. Okay, how? Let's break it all down. JSN, or did I say BTJ earlier? JSN. Did I say BTJ? JSN to the moon, to the mother freaking moon. I love this. Bring it in. I got BTJ on my mind. BTJ. He's BTJ. I don't know what I'm saying there. All right, file in. Let's go.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
BTJ. I got BTJ on the mind. JSN goes to the moon. This is not a move that hampers JSN whatsoever. And I'm not saying that I don't like Cooper Kupp. I think this offense is looking nice. I think you've got JSN, Cooper Kupp, Sam Darnold, Kubiak, balanced attack, good run attack, Charbonnet and Walker to the moon. I don't see how this is a bad move at all. Would he had a better potential fantasy outlook in New England, getting sole target share by himself? Probably. Is this man done in wash? I don't think so. And this contract makes you think, okay, the Seattle Seahawks firmly believe he's still got a lot left in the tank. I don't think he has a shot at unseating JSN as the one. I don't think he has a shot at being the Cooper Kupp of old. But when we look at Cooper Kupp's game log and we sit here and say, how bad was he last year? Because everyone seems to say that he was completely washed. But when you really look at his game log, and you understand that he missed some time right here. He started off playing 2 games, 21 targets in week number 1. 21 targets in week number 1 in this OT loss to the Detroit Lions. 14 receptions for 110 and a touchdown. Week number 2, 6 for targets, 4 receptions, 37 yards. Then he got injured. Okay, comes back, 8 for 51 and a touch right off the bat. 104 and 0 touchdowns. Then this week, 80 yards. This week against New England, 10 targets, 6 receptions, 106 and 2 touchdowns. This week, 8 receptions, 60 yards and a touchdown. Then he had a bad game, 3 for 17. Then he had a good game, 5 receptions, 92 yards and a touchdown. Then he went on a 3-game slump. He went missing. Milk carton, 0 receptions on 3 targets. 3 for 3, 24, 1 reception, and then in the playoffs wasn't. Look, I understand, but we've got a 3-game stretch where he completely vanished. But why is everyone forgetting that he had a pretty good year? The injuries are a concern, yes, but why is everyone forgetting he had a pretty good year? JSN's the one. JSN's the one. I still want to talk about BT for some reason. We got the new BT emoji, by the way. Drop the BT emoji. It's part of why it's on my mind. Here is that emoji if anybody wants to know what it looks like. It's a glorious emoji, and it says, BTJ, what you gonna do? BTJ, he's coming for you. Hide your mom, as BTJ is gonna drop loads in 2025, but so is JSN. And JSN and this guy together are gonna make Sam Darnold have a formidable wide receiver room that might make him look similar to the way he looked in Minnesota. JSN alone was, I don't want to say worrisome for Darnold for me, but I love that he's got a solid number 2 wide receiver. And they were going to draft a rookie The Seattle Seahawks could have easily at 18 drafted Ibuka. They still could, but Cooper Kupp, they were going to fill this spot. If anybody thinks this hurts JSN, it doesn't. They were going to fill the spot. JSN takes volume from you. You don't take volume from JSN. JSN played with Garrett Wilson in college. Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave were on the roster when JSN was a freshman. And guess who outshined both those guys? JSN. As a freshman, those two guys went on to the pros to get highly drafted and sought after when JSN outperformed them. He goes over to Seattle, outperforms DK Metcalf. JSN is a vacuum cleaner for targets. He's all over the field. He's a safety net for quarterbacks. He's easy to throw to. He's dynamic. JSN's going to the moon. JSN is a Saturn man for a reason.
The Saturn man.
One small step for man, one giant leap for Saturn.
He's a Saturn man for a reason.
Spaceman.
He's a spaceman. I like this for Darnold. I like this for Seattle. I like this for Cooper Kupp. I think there are better fantasy football productive places to go, but this is still solid. Darnold proved he could throw to two receivers. He had Addison and JJ. Granted, I think the scheme and coaching staff and everything as a whole is better in Minnesota than it is in Seattle. I'm not blind. I'm not an idiot. I'm not a moron. But I do believe that Sam Darnold, Cooper Kupp, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, and JSN and Kubiak, and probably a pretty much improved defense is going to be, I think, better this year than it was last year. You're looking at a pretty solid team. You might be looking at, and I'm a Cardinal fan, I'm in Arizona, I'm hopeful. I'm not saying I've got, my hope is not down in the cellar, but I do believe you might be looking at an underrated Seattle team in 2025 in the West. I think the West is owned by the Rams. I think the Rams are taking the West. I think the Cardinals are in the mix. The Niners are in shambles. They've lost half their team at least, and injuries are still probably going to hit them in some capacity. This is pretty solid. And getting this news was nice because we weren't sure this was coming. I think the Aaron Rodgers news is next. Maybe that happens today at some point. I think it probably does. Let's see if we can get Kruger's response. Kruger, what do you think of the Seattle Seahawks signing of Cooper Kupp? And what kind of production does Cooper Kupp have in 2025 from a fantasy football perspective, catching footballs from Darnold, but also trying to fend off JSN from being a vacuum cleaner of targets?
All right, Smitty. To the Seahawks is huge, especially with Donald slinging the rock. Kupp's still a top-tier talent, and even though JSN's on the rise, Kupp's experience and route running mastery will keep him as a primary target. He could easily see WR1 numbers, even with JSN cutting into the share. It's all about how the offense adapts. But Kupp's a stud, and there's plenty of targets to go round.
The biggest concern, though, Krug, is that Kupp is washed. He's older. He fell off the map at the end of the year last year. I tried to go over with the audience the numbers that he did pretty well at the beginning of the year, but what are the odds that he can't stay healthy at his ripe age? And, are the concerns that maybe his best days are behind him, are those valid concerns given his age?
Absolutely, Smitty. It's a valid concern with Kupp's age and recent injuries. The risk of him being washed is real. Remember, even with a declining top speed, his route running and football IQ can keep him effective. So while the risk is there, the potential reward is worth considering, especially if you can snag him at a value in drafts. It's all about weighing that risk versus the reward and having a solid backup plan.
Yeah, I think Krug makes a good point that, and this is what we've been preaching for the last handful of weeks, really, is it comes down to risk and baked in risk in the ADP. And the bottom line is, as much as you want to crap on Cooper Kupp, as much as you want to crap on Cooper Kupp and his drop off, and there's no risk. There's no risk. It's not like he's going in double-digit rounds. I don't know where his ADP is going to shape out after this news, right? His ADP was double-digit. It was wide receiver 4 or 5. It was not your wide receiver 3. You didn't have to draft him there, but we have no clue where his ADP is going to rise to and settle when the dust settles. We have no clue. But I venture to say there's no way he's higher than a low-end wide receiver 3, because he'd have to climb a monstrous amount of rounds to get to that territory alone. And I think the bottom line is, even if we do believe that Cooper Kupp as a whole, the fantasy football community as a whole, believe he's lost a step, he's not the same guy, pretty decent spot, there's too many doubters to keep his ADP at bay. Even if people believe the ADP will not rise, it'll only rise so far. It will not rise into a ridiculous territory. I don't think Cooper Kupp could be overvalued. I think he's so far down the ADP rankings right now, there's no way he can climb past a point of reasonable, acceptance of a high risk, high reward. He's going to be high risk, high reward no matter what. High reward, low risk no matter what. Dial into the show if you guys have any comments, questions on this particular topic.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
All right. Hit me with it. Smash that phone number. Get in here and let's talk a little Cooper Kupp. A little Cooper Kupp. Combing for Aaron Rodgers news. Cooper Kupp's contract again, $45 million on 3 years. That's $15 million a year. I told you it was going to be above 10. It was going to be probably in the 12 or higher area, and look at 15. 15 a year, 45 mil, 3 years. Seattle does not think he's washed. Maybe this is not the best contract. Maybe it's an overpay. He said he was going to get a ridiculous number. He said the market value will be there. That was a quote from Cooper Kupp. He would be taken care of. He knows he's going to get the deal he wants, and he got it. So Cooper Kupp's smart enough to know that he's worth this. In Dynasty, we are selling high on Kupp right now, says Aldi from his 15-month membership. Question. It's a good question, Aldi. I don't necessarily think that's... I think in some cases you could buy him in Dynasty. People have an unusual knack for wanting no older players over the age of 26, 27. Like, really, 24 is like getting to the point where people are like, he's 24, he's almost halfway to 30. People are ridiculous. No one's saying you sell something good for Cooper Kupp, but if you can win a league and you need a wide receiver 3-4 and he's costing you a 3.1, I'm giving up a 3.1 all day for Cooper Kupp for the chance that he has a little bit left in the tank and I need a wide receiver. Now, if I don't need wide receivers, I'm not doing that. But I'm giving up a second for Debo. I'm giving up a second rounder for... in Dynasty, I've been going after the Tank Bigsby ETN stack using second rounders. Using a third rounder on Cooper Kupp. Love it. Go after Mike Evans. Using as low of capital as you can. Go after older players. Championships are sometimes won by having a few dominant veterans that can lead you to the promised land for the 1 year that you're competitive for. Just like the Niners as an example. Your window's open and you dismantle and rebuild. The Niners window was still open. If they just told Brock Purdy, suck it up, Buttercup, here's an extra $1 or $2 raise while you wait, but we're not giving the last pick in the draft a $60 million contract until you end with a good year, not just have one good year in between. And the Niners window was there. They could have done whatever they needed to retain every single player, let Brock Purdy prove it, earn his $60 million next year instead of $50. He would have got a raise if Brock Purdy just would have waited, and you close your window prematurely. This is the same thing in Fantasy Football Dynasty. Look, Cooper Kupp does not have a place highly ranked, but he has a place in Dynasty when you can go get him cheap. And if you've got him, and somebody comes to you with a garbage offer, don't just trade him. Let the wheels fall off if you can win something. Don't go trying to get a third round pick for Cooper Kupp. Use Cooper Kupp to win some cash money. And I'm not saying he's a lock or a golden child of yours and your fantasy hopes and dreams aren't going to be resting on his shoulders, but he's a wide receiver 3-4. Phone lines open. Dial in. JSN to the moon. I can't believe I said BT at the beginning of the show. My mind is not mush. I'm very sharp right now, but my mind's going in 100 different directions. And sometimes, you know, the wrong name comes out of my mouth when I'm speeding along at 1,000 miles per hour. So dial into the show. Appreciate you all. I'm excited. We need a JSN video, by the way. I need a JSN drop. I can't believe I don't have a JSN drop. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what the hell he's doing. And again, like I said earlier, there's no I don't think there's any legs to the Minnesota Vikings situation. I could be wrong. I'll take a lap and come in here if the Vikings sign him. But I forgive me until we have Schefter or Rappaport reporting it. Then I'll support it. I'll be like, okay, look, this did pick up. There is some legs to this, but this is coming from Diana Rossini. I'm not saying she's the worst in the world. I'm not saying she's always wrong, but there's a trend of when she reports something, the biggest sources never retweet it or support her on it. Why is that? It's not that I'm even following the legend of Diana Rossini. It's me following the things that aren't happening around Diana Rossini. It's the fact that Schefter and Rappaport are never retweeting her or saying, Diana's got this. This is coming from Diana Rossini. I just don't know. Like, I don't know how dialed in she is. I don't have faith in that. So we'll see what happens. But if they get back into the game, let's wait until we have an actual solid report on it. I think Aaron Rodgers is just weighing retirement in the Pittsburgh Steelers landing spot. And if for any reason someone's correct on Rodgers waiting for Minnesota, then I think he's waiting on bated breath. But also keep in mind, Rodgers has time and time said what to you guys, what to me, what to Pat McAfee, what to everybody when he talks about it. No one knows what he's going through because his inner circle will not talk. So when someone says Rodgers is waiting on Minnesota, I almost guarantee you that if Aaron Rodgers were interviewed, he would laugh and say, even if that is true, and I'm not, even if he said it is true or not, that is a guess that someone got right because no one's going to know from his inner circle, and we don't know what's truly going on with him. He might truly just say, look, Pittsburgh was always the place, and the only thing I was waiting on was whether I didn't want to commit to this team before the NFL draft if I wasn't 100%, in it mentally, physically, and I thought I could do the job. Probably something along the lines of what you're going to hear from Rodgers once and if, I believe he will, ends up signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But we'll find out. I'm refreshing every second as we speak, looking for Aaron Rodgers news. And any updates regarding the Minnesota Vikings potential interest. Ron Navy, you're live.
Hey, what's up, Smitty?
What's up, pal?
I didn't see that coming. Kupp going to the Seahawks.
I mean, it was the lead place for him to go for about I'd say 24 hours, and then it was mentioned in the top 3 spots for like maybe a day and a half. But yeah, it does seem like at the end of the day, maybe a spot that he would have considered, second or third. But they offered him the money, man, and I think with Sam Darnold, they wanted to make sure they had another weapon, and they were willing to overpay. Maybe it was a $13 or $12 million offer from other teams, and they said, we'll give you 15. I'm not sure.
Well, plus he gets to play against the Rams twice a year, so, players like doing that, going up against their old teams. So. Yeah,
some people say that he won't want to do that. I'm like, what are you talking about? No one's going to make a decision because they got to face their old team twice a year or not face them like that. There's a lot of people saying he wasn't going to choose Seattle because of that. I'm like, that's ridiculous. He's going where the money's going. Not to mention, like, you're a player, You're cocky, you're confident in yourself, You're not worried about that.
I mean, he's going to go into it like, okay, you didn't want to keep me, you didn't want to pay me, you bring in somebody else, I'm going to make you pay for it with beating you on the field.
Yeah.
That's how players think.
What are you hearing locally about Pittsburgh, or what do you hear? I mean, I know you listen to a lot of the local stuff, but like,
Honestly,
I'm sure they're making up
like,
shit, but
a lot of fans don't want Rodgers. They don't want to deal with what we're dealing with now, with indecision and having to wait, and him going through his mental freaking in the dark crap and all that other stuff. People just, if you want to come play with us, then just let us know so we can do it. If not, we don't want you. That's how the fans are. That's how the local podcasts are going. It's like, they don't want to deal with the Rodgers drama. That's why they signed Mason Rudolph as a backup. They're bringing him back for $8 million over 2 years, because he knows the systems. And so if something falls through with Rodgers, at least they got somebody there that can run the system effectively. I mean, he's not the greatest, of course, we know that, but if Tomlin
starts Rudolph, he'll be fired by the end of the year. I'm not saying he's not a bad.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a bad backup. Like, you're right. If let's say your starter goes down for 2 or 3 games, that's what your backup's supposed to do anyway. But if they actually turn to him as the starter because of, like, I don't know, Russell Wilson will probably come crawling back to Pittsburgh. I think he's trying to use the leverage of other teams want me, and Rodgers probably Russell Wilson probably never even got on the plane. He's probably still sitting at the airport and just call me, Pittsburgh, please. But even a laughing stock there. You turn to Russell. You were wrong, Tomlin. It should have been Fields. Everyone was right and you were wrong, even though it looked so great after one game, huh? And then you try and go get Fields now and make it right. Fields says, no, I'm going to New York to play with Garrett Wilson. Then you let Russell Wilson go shop around. You're trying to get Aaron Rodgers, and if you fail, and then you got to resort back to Russell Wilson, which won't work. Tomlin should be fired at the end of that season too. The only way Tomlin should stay and could stay is if Rodgers comes over, they win a playoff game or 2, and they have a pretty successful year. Then it's okay, rinse and repeat. Not firing Tomlin. He gets into the playoffs every year, and that's going to be the narrative will continue. But if he fails with Mason Rudolph or Russell Wilson again, that's going to be something that could sting and have a good coach to everybody end up being this just isn't working, let's part ways. And there might be a mutual agreement for them to part ways, like we heard of potentially brewing this offseason. Like, could Tomlin step away mutually? Could they trade Tomlin? So.
Right. Well, and if they don't get somebody in there like Rodgers, I mean, then at that point, if they're stuck with Mason, I don't know. I think then we're going to see probably George act up. I think we'll see George Pickens act up.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to have a quarterback worth the crap to throw to him.
Also, don't be surprised, though, Ron, if this contract that T. Higgins gets, because the report, I don't know if you saw my live stream, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are both going to get their deal, according to Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport, within days. So the moment T. Higgins gets 32 million, very much the same deal DK got. I'm telling you, Pickens is going to lose his shit. And that's got to be frustrating.
But do you think considering
Agreed, Daniel.
Higgins, you brought up Higgins. So considering that whole thing there, do you think, I think Burrow's having second thoughts of, like, I didn't think this thing through when I got my record-breaking set the bar for quarterbacks. If I would have given up, taken like $5 million less, we could have kept Chase, we could have kept Higgins, we could have kept Henderson, who's key to protecting him. I mean, that's key. But they're losing key players. Yeah, they're getting to keep that, but I mean, Burrow's losing key players also at the same time because they can't keep them all.
I don't think
they kind of
I don't think so.
A little bit because I think so.
I don't think so because Burrow's already, you can renegotiate. So Burrow's already said he'll make room. Whatever he's got to do to renegotiate his deal to fit this all in, he'll do. So Burrow's going above and beyond. I don't think he feels regret at all. He's restructured his deal in such a way that he can help the team out, and he will. So the reason that T. Higgins, and you'll probably hear Joe Burrow restructured his deal potentially before or at the same time that T. Higgins signs his deal. And if they can sign T. Higgins and Jamar Chase without touching Joe Burrow's deal, then that means they can move Joe Burrow's money around to get Hendrickson. And Hendrickson signed again. So I don't think it's going to be as big a deal as you think. Not to mention you can still get value. It's not like you're losing. It's not like you're losing Hendrickson for nothing. You're going to get a pick, and you can also obviously replace him in draft smart. But T. Higgins and Jamar Chase will be signed because of Joe Burrow's willingness to negotiate and move money around. I think that he's going to do his part for sure. I don't think he regrets signing what he signed. I mean, look, not everybody's going to do what Josh Allen did. Just because Josh Allen left $5 million on the table, that's going to be repeated very rarely. No one cares like that very often. That's not some trend. I don't think Joe Burrow looked at it and goes, I'll do that next time. And everybody just follows the leader on it. I think the cap is a fake to a degree anyway. The amount of money you can move forward to signing bonuses and restructure deals, the cap is fake to a degree. Yes, you do eventually run into a roadblock, but if the Bengals wanted to get even Hendrickson still signed with T. Higgins and Chase, they could get it done. They could figure it out, and they could structure the deal in such a way that, it spreads it out enough. The longer a contract is, the more chances and opportunities you have to renegotiate. That's why when Mahomes signed his 10-year, if people remember, 10-year, $500 million deal, which was crazy at the time. In $500 million, people are like, wait a minute, he didn't sign that. He's not the highest paid. It was 10 years. So it wasn't the same annual number as everybody else's, but it was a 10-year, $500 million deal. And when he signed that, everybody that didn't know what they're talking about, a bunch of non-football people would say things like, they'll never sign another player again. That's crazy, $500 million. But that gives the contract so many opportunities, not one, multiple opportunities to restructure to allow signings and kick the can down the road. And you might say, well, eventually it comes back to haunt you. No, it doesn't, because 10 years from now, what's remaining that you've kicked down the road is not even fair market value. Like Mahomes isn't making whatever. He's going to get an extension before he ever has to worry about that end of that contract hampering the team. He'll get more money.
Yeah, well, I was about to say that Mahomes has, by doing what he's did, he's left the team a lot of outs and a lot of restructure. I totally get that, and I agree with that.
So did Burrow.
I mean, if you think about it, Mahomes is the first one to being able to put teammates around him other than just getting the bag himself.
Yeah. Well, Aaron Rodgers is the next domino to fall, but that domino is just not swaying much. That
might not happen for a while.
It's just sitting there like.
I mean, you're talking April, maybe.
No,
if you're lucky.
No, he'll let us know within 24 hours. I think 48 hours.
You think?
Yeah, he's on the beach, Ron. I mean,
I've heard rumors that it could be right before the draft.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you never know. But I mean, he's literally in a towel. Looks like he's begging for money on the beach, like contemplating it now. Like he's trying to get his decision now. He's not. This isn't something where he's like, we'll address it later. He's trying to find the answer right this second. So you know what I think what happens, man, is like anything. This will trigger something. This big news here.
Well, it's just.
Team signing, guys, it oftentimes has things move along fast. Like everyone's like, okay, look, teams are reacting. They know what they're able to go do, and what they've got in the next move. Like you need to know your next move, and if this move pisses off Pickens, this amount of money that he's getting, even like for Cooper Kupp at his age to get $15 million a year, $45 million deal, like the Steelers need to know what they're going to do, because they might have behind closed doors Pickens pissed now, And they're like, look, Aaron, we got to know what numbers we're dealing with. We got to know what we can spend, and I think, they're going to tell him at some point, we need to know now. They're not letting this thing go to April. No way they can do that.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's up to the Steelers. Steelers' fault, too, for letting them do it if they let them do it, because they need to put pressure on them and not worry about, okay, what happens if you push them away, because they're the ones that have to push the issue and not let them take all the time, because there wasn't no, Perry, I'm not on drugs again. I'm going off of reports that I've heard in local Steelers news about different things. So it's not like I'm way out there on that take. I heard it that Rodgers could wait until right before the draft if the Steelers allow that to happen. So that's why, and they were making the point that the Steelers need to step up. And
this is an honest question. This is an honest question because I don't know the answer to it. When was the last time Diana Rossini broke something? I'm seriously, I'm not saying she hasn't. It's an honest question. Does anybody remember, or can they find out when's the last time Diana Rossini was first on a big story? It may have happened once, and that's why, people give a lot of weight to what she says or something. I don't know, but like, there's a reason that Ian Rappaport and Rapsheet and Schefter never see eye to eye with her. Like, if she comes out and says, here in news, you don't see Rapsheet retweet it. You don't see, I'm like, this whole Minnesota Vikings, Aaron Rodgers last minute scramble is only being reported by the Athletic's Diana Rossini. And I'm just curious, can anybody remember when she broke a story?
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
Not really.
So we'll see. And I'm not just like trying to push back on the Minnesota Vikings potential being back in the mix because the other night I said no. We've heard multiple reports that they've moved on, like financially even. They're like, look, we've made our bed. And, there's a point where we were interested in Aaron Rodgers, and they were, but that's since been closed. That door's been closed. Money's been spent. J.J. McCarthy they're turning to. And Sam Darnold was their only other potential like avenue, and they decided to not franchise tag him. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I've heard several reports too, from different people, the same thing, saying, Minnesota, they'd be stupid to bring in Rodgers. Not the fact that, he brings he just totally messed up J.J. McCarthy's head. Because you're not just bringing in, you're bringing in a Super Bowl winning, to be Hall of Fame quarterback, and if you're going to do that, why'd you let Sam Darnold go? I mean, if you were that concerned about JJ, so if you let Sam Darnold go, you're saying, okay, JJ's got the reins. We believe in JJ. We drafted him in the first round, and this is where you're going. And if you let Darnold go the way they did, that's what you're saying to JJ is, okay, we're going to go. But then if you turn around and bring Aaron Rodgers in, what the heck you doing? Because you could have had Sam Darnold back for just as much, at a decent price. And then you bring in Aaron Rodgers? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it also, like, similar to how you bring in Danny Dimes over in Indy, and you don't think that's going to put a nail in the coffin in AR5 in Indy. Like, you've already benched AR5, like, trade him. Let him go somewhere where maybe he could, flourish, and put him in a backup role somewhere. Like, if I'm the Raiders, I'd trade for him as my backup quarterback. If I'm the Bengals, I'd trade for him as my backup quarterback. If I'm the Cardinals, especially if I have a running quarterback like the Cardinals or the Ravens, I go get AR5 as my backup quarterback. I give him a new, fresh, situation if you're going to bench him anyway. But the same thing goes for J.J. McCarthy. Unless there's some underlying re-injury or setback that we don't know about, and the last word is that they expected him to be ready to go for the season, could potentially have some potential. The starting point of when he could go full go might be not set yet, but the word was that he was going to be fine unless he had some sort of setback that we'll find out later. How would this be good for JJ McCarthy? at all. Like kind of similar to what you just said, but even more so emphasizing that. How in the world are you going to expect this man? And why'd you draft him? Like, it's not like he failed or anything. And everything you hear is he's a stand-up guy. Everything he's done, they love. He's never done a single thing wrong in his life since he's been a Viking. And yet you're exploring another quarterback. I don't think the Aaron Rodgers thing has legs. We might even hear the Vikings say they're not interested today or something. But it doesn't make sense to me. Otherwise, why did you draft J.J. McCarthy? And if you would go get A-Rod, you're putting a nail in the coffin of J.J. McCarthy's confidence, just like AR5's, confidence is shot. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, look at Malik Willis, right? Malik Willis, they drafted him high, and that was the same year Pickett got drafted and stuff. But he wasn't doing anything in Tennessee. He was like a bust, right? But then he goes up to Green Bay and falls into the backup position, and he's actually thriving right now. He's actually getting better once in a while, he's looking pretty good. So I think he revitalized his chances of maybe down the line, maybe he gets an opportunity, maybe he remains a backup, but he's playing better.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing is AR5 sitting there and his confidence. I mean, you bring in all these different quarterbacks, you bring in, everybody, his confidence is going, he needs to go somewhere else where he can maybe regain his confidence and actually, because we all knew his potential, athletic potential. We're all high on it. But development, getting injured and all that, it stunts your development. And then when you start bringing in other players and then you got that pressure to come in and you're still learning, that has a way to really mess up your confidence. So yeah, he probably needs to go somewhere with a good quarterback coach that can bring him along and give him back some confidence and he can learn.
Let me hit Travis up. Travis, you're live real quick. What are your thoughts on Cooper Kupp? What do you think? What do you think he does this year? I mean, we were. Travis was on the phone at the end of the stream, right before the Cooper Kupp stream, this stream, and we had already kind of, talked about that Kupp was maybe underrated, because of the game log. I mean, the game log doesn't lie. Anybody that says Cooper Kupp sucked last year and fell off the face of the earth, they're being very vague and not really talking factual, because Kupp actually had a really good year. When you look at the games played, he only had, during the regular season, 3 games, these final 3 games where he had duds. The rest of the season was pretty damn good. I mean, look, it's right in front of your face. 200-yard games. He had a 2 TD game. He had 6 touchdowns in this small period of time right here. It was only his final 3 games where it was complete nothingness, and maybe he was dealing with an injury. Stafford's most recent comment is alarming and not alarming at the same time when asked about Cooper Kupp, and he said when he's healthy, he's one of the best in the game. To even throw that out there, instead of saying he's going to take the league, whatever by storm, like Sick Nasty's saying about JJM, he's going to take the league by storm. You watch, he's going to bounce back. I love the guy. I wish we could keep him. No, for him to be for Stafford to be yeah, he's as good as anybody when he's healthy. It was kind of why'd you say that? Why'd you even say that? I don't know. His whole ending to this season was weird to me. It almost felt like there was something between him and Stafford, even though they seemed good. It was just kind of wild to me that he oversaturated. I mean, look at the targets in week 1. 21 targets. That is unreal. He had a 14-target game, a 10-target game, 11-target game, and then it just tailed right there. But 21 targets? What's the most targets a receiver has ever gotten in a game? Let's ask. I mean, that's why we have Kruger, right? So let's see what Kruger says. Kruger, what's the most targets a receiver has ever had in a single game in the NFL?
The record for the most targets by Brandon Marshall with 28 targets when he was with the Bears against the Broncos in 2015.
28.
He caught 21 passes for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, setting an NFL record for receptions in a game. That was a monster performance.
Who was second? What was the second most targets for a receiver in a single game in the NFL?
The second most targets in a single game is held by Terrell Owens with 20.
With what? You cut out. Kruger? I don't know. That's right. We don't need it. Wow, 28 he cut. So he cut 21 passes. Man, I kind of remember that now. 21? Jeez, man. That's crazy. Sorry, I don't think I even let you answer. Go ahead, Travis.
Oh, yeah. No problem. With Kupp, I mean, I think if you look at it, like, I basically throw those last 3 games out. I don't know what the deal was, whether he was banged up or there was something with him and Stafford or whatever, but, all throughout the year, he was getting his, 7, 8, 9 targets a game with double digits some weeks. So if he does that, and of course, the big question is if he's healthy, he's going to be, a 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, it's pretty easy to extrapolate and figure out, like, unless he's completely fallen off, which I don't buy. I don't think he has. I think it'll be good for him. And I've been saying, unless he, in terms of fantasy, unless he went somewhere like the Patriots where he's just going to get 12 targets a game no matter what, just rack up stats, somewhere like Seattle makes sense where he can play that secondary role, which they'll still get plenty of targets in though, where, he's not necessarily leaned on as the number one guy. So I don't know. I think it's a good fit. Darnold's pretty accurate. It should be good.
Yeah, and I don't think JSN gets touched. This is a thing where it's like BTJ, and this is probably why BTJ was also on my mind. BTJ is also somebody you don't want him to go through year after year with no support next to him. Like, eventually you do get shut down more and more, and defenses really start coming with the thunder when there's not another option. So given that Kupp is not what he used to be, we all agree he's not the 2021 version Cooper Kupp, but 1,000 yards, 6-7 touchdowns, wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 in fantasy, right. That's not going to threaten JSN's volume. There's enough to go around for 1,000 yards is not a crazy number with 17 games. This is not, and 6 touchdowns is not a big deal at all. If Darnold throws 25 or whatever, or 24 or whatever the hell he throws, he could throw 30, but let's just say he throws 25 touchdowns, like, give Cooper Kupp 5 of them. There's so much more to go around. I'm not worried at all. Even if they dumb down the offense passing wise a little bit, revert more toward even if it was a 2 wide receiver type of system, like it was, back when DK and Lockett were, balling, I have no worries about JSN's numbers for people that think this is a bad thing. They would have drafted a younger, fresher rookie.
Even if you look at the last 3 years where he's been banged up, 9 games, 12 games, 12 games, the numbers he still put up is still worth the risk if he's at the right ADP in fantasy. He was still averaging 753 yards a year, which is solid. And then he still scores a lot of touchdowns. Like, if you look at it, even in the last 3 years, he's had 6, 5, and 6 in those, limited games. So I know it's a different system or whatever he's going to, but he's still going to be a red zone target on top of everything.
Yeah, and even though, why would they dumb down the offense, says Nick, it's not that the reason I'm saying that is because there's been talk. I said, even if there's been talk about going more balanced and having more of a running game than in previous years. So if Sam Darnold, and the thinking was with just JSN and Sam Darnold, that would be understandable that they could, but with adding Cooper Kupp, it does make it to where they could say whatever they want, but they're still going to have the tendency and urge, and Sam Darnold will have the urge to throw the ball downfield, and it might end up not being a rebalancing of the offense. But what I mean by that too, though, is that instead of running a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, which Ryan Grubb came from college running a 3 wide receiver set. Ryan Grubb flip the offensive like game plan upside down. There's a chance Kubiak does want to run 2 wide receiver sets versus a lot of 3s, or something along the lines of balance, instead of where I'd say Ryan Grubb probably, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I'd say like 70% of Ryan Grubb play calls, especially back in college, I know that, was more of a 3 wide receiver set, versus, Pete Carroll running 2 wide receiver sets all the time. So dumbing down the offense in that regard, but doesn't mean that the production can't still be good, or like a 2 wide receiver set, or oftentimes like a rotational, let's say it was even Steven. They ran a lot of different passing schemes or whatever than we expect. Even if it was lesser than last year, having Darnold execute on even what we call a more watered down pass attack could still be bigger numbers than Geno. So, like, understand what I'm saying. I love MHJ, just not on my team, says Fred. Well, Fred, give him a chance. He was a rookie last year, and at the end of the day, he still had a decent stat line when you think about it. Not every rookie receiver can have, 1,400 yards. BBQ with a $10 hauler says Rodgers is just confirming what the majority thinks about him being a diva with an ego. If I were the Steelers or Giants, I would tell him we are out on your services. I agree with a lot of that, more so than I would have in years past. But I also believe, he does, like when we really think about it and step back, he does have the right to be like, hey, if I'm not sure if I want to play, it doesn't have to be their cup of tea. They can walk away, but like, I'm not going to just make a decision that I want to back out on later. I played in this league long enough. When you start getting into double-digit years, in a sense, you do have the right to be like, look, if I want to come back, I've earned the right to wait. I think the problem is he's done this multiple times, so people are tired of it. But we're the ones consuming it. We're the ones looking for it. We're the ones combing through like 10 years ago when the social media game wasn't, around. You were waiting on NFL, ESPN to update you at the end of the day, or, NFL Live to come on where they didn't have anything, updated in instant, and you're waiting to hear what was going on. Now we're like on pins and needles, minute by minute, second by second. And so I think our ideas have changed as to what players should be doing, when they should be doing it. But if you really do step back and look at it, free agency just began. And if Aaron Rodgers is like taking his time as to where he's going to go play football and commit to, and the contract, and we don't even know if the contract negotiation is part of it holding it up too, because again, we're all hearing stuff that might not be completely true. I think it's not as wild as people are making it out, but I do agree. I'm like myself wanting to know the information, like, and it's funny because Rodgers has kept us waiting before, so it's easy to pick on him. But at the same time, it's like, it's not, if he does what Ron thinks he could do, is go to April, then yeah. But I think, if he let us know tonight, is it that ridiculous? Not really. He's down to a couple teams. He's the top dog that's available, and he gets to kind of, take his time, and I understand it at least, but it does get frustrating. DK or Reed in Dynasty, DK by a mile, and I say that with a sad face that I wear, because I love Reed, but they don't use Reed properly. And DK is going to be a beast, bro. Not to mention the odds are, whether Ron believes it or not, the odds are much more likely that Pickens is not in Pittsburgh next year than they are, just because they would have already signed him to an extension if their thought process was he's their future. They wouldn't have got DK Metcalf and paid him $33 million a year. Now, to Ron's point or hope, is there a chance that Pickens puts on his happy face, plays great ball, and then they change their mind and say, you know what, you earned it. Let's get them both in here. Let's do what the Eagles did. Let's sign both receivers, get them both happy, pay them both big dollars, and keep marching forward because we succeeded. We won 2 playoff games. We look great. Yeah, there's that possibility, but that's why I'm saying it's trending in the wrong direction, because unless that happens, there's almost, I think, little to no chance that Pickens returns when he's playing on a contract year. And when teams allow that player to go to the end of their contract versus extend them a year early, which you do when you want to keep a player. It's a very telegraphed move. When you let it go the distance of the contract, you get to a dead end point where your only option to hold them, because then they become an unrestricted free agent, is to franchise tag them. And usually if you're going to franchise tag a player at the end of their contract when you didn't extend them earlier, they either wanted so much money that, like T. Higgins, you butted heads, you wanted it to work, you're both trying and it didn't work because the player's holding out for too much money, or the player changed your mind and you're like, damn, I would have signed him earlier if he was playing like this, let's tag him. So the odds are very much against. So to answer the question, the reason I bring that up is you ask me DK or whatever. DK's got great dynasty value in Pittsburgh because he's probably trending to be the number one and only wide receiver there in terms of big names in 2026. And I think this Higgins contract that he's about to get mixed with Cooper Kupp's $45 million, even though it's only 15 a year, he's older. Some will say he's washed and he's making 15 mil a year. Even that might piss off DK more than the Higgins contract, because he's going to be like, okay, Higgins is young. He's in the spot. I might be in that spot next year. Maybe I just get franchise tagged. That sounds nice too. Maybe I'll just play it cool. Maybe he's thinking what Ron's thinking, that like maybe other teams won't like me and I won't have as many suitors if I cry like a baby. So maybe, but then he all of a sudden sees Cooper Kupp get $45 million, $15 million a year deal. And he's like, come on, man. Come on. Like, what's going on here?
You said DK instead of Pickens.
Oh, sorry.
So you know, you meant Pickens.
Pickens, yeah. I've been moving 1,000 miles per hour, and I need to try, and I've done that a couple times lately. It's not my mind going. It's just I'm operating at a. This is why I brought Kruger in, and Kruger's going to try and contain me.
Hey, I got a trade question for you.
Yeah.
If you think a trade is good or not. Mixon and Stevenson for Najee. Would you do it or not do it?
Mixon and Stevenson for Najee. Well, we had Najee Gate on the previous show, and we debunked what we thought was a negative. There's a picture of Najee that was floating around. We didn't know if it was AI or not, so I was very careful when we breached the conversation, because it was this photo right here where Najee. We thought maybe it was Eddie Lacy. We're like, who is this?
Eddie Lacy. Oh my God.
Who is that?
Badass Eddie Lacy.
Who is that guy? Because that can't be Najee, is what we said. And we believe this is a real photo. It was a bad angle, maybe. It was, he's standing weird. I yelled at a guy because he said it was baggy clothes. And then at the end of the stream, I ended up telling the guy, don't let this go to your head, but you were probably right, because we found other angles of the same clothing. This guy on the right, same clothing. It looks like Keenan Allen at the bottom left corner. We're not positive, but that's interesting because that's what the caption says. Maybe Keenan Allen's returning to the Chargers, which is crazy. That would be a great move. Even though he's a little bit, he's getting older, it's still a good move for the Chargers. A Herbert, connection. But we saw other photos of this exact outfit and everything. He takes off his sweatshirt and he looks slender. He doesn't even look like overweight at all. So we debunked the Najee Gate photo on the stream. Good detective work. We're very careful breaching it. But that is not what he looks like. You can, it's clear as day, see him at the press conference looking a lot more slender, but in the same outfit. It's possible that was AI and someone stretched it out, but I think it was just a weird angle. On top of, okay, so now that we've debunked that, I think Najee, I like Stevenson a lot, I do, but there's a lot of questions there. And Mixon, he's at his end. If this is Dynasty, give me Najee.
Yeah, for the long term. If it depends on what you think about Mixon too, because Mixon at the end just fell straight off.
Debo filter.
So
Yeah, but we had a lot of players fall straight off last year at the end. I mean, we were just talking about Kupp. We were just talking about, there's a lot of players that.
Oh yeah,
and they stopped using them. They weren't even running them that much. Look at his attempts and stuff. They weren't even running them.
That's
as
what I'm
much,
saying though. Is it depends if someone thinks that Mixon's going to be good, then that side is decent. But I don't. In Dynasty, I guess Najee.
I love what
win it.
BB.
Well,
I love what
I made
BBQ
that
said here.
trade earlier, so I was just wondering.
BBQ said,
got
Good or
Najee.
bad, I made it.
BBQ said that there was a Debo filter being used on the Najee photo. Here's a photo. Or hold on, I got another one here. What? Travis said 1,000 yards and what did you say? 6 touchdowns for Cooper Kupp.
If he plays, full season.
And Ron, what's your stat line for Cooper Kupp?
I'd say 1150 and 8 touchdowns.
I was going to say if he plays a full season, I'll say 8 or 9 touchdowns because he's been getting 5 or 6 just playing 11 or 12 games a year. So if he plays a full season, I'm at 1,009. I'll go.
Yeah, I those aren't bad. I think that's I'm a little bit more excited than most people. By the way, there's an image of going around of Smitty. Apparently I had baggy clothes on in this photo as well. So it's very, very possible that Najee got, look at that. I do look a little wider there. This is before the press conference. I guess,
It looks like a stretch picture.
Yeah.
Mitigate.
Even your face, it looks like you took the picture and stretched it out.
Mitigate.
I think you look better.
Oh, Najee got wrapped up in some conspiracy. You did? Oh yeah, you traded Najee. Why would you trade Najee away? You're a big Najee fan. I thought
you gave up Najee.
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, I gave up Najee for Mixon. Well, here's the thing: is I was getting 2 for 1. I was getting 2 for 1, and I got Charbonnet and Walker, and I got Mason also on my. So it gives me more flexibility going into the draft. So yeah, Stevenson, he catches a lot more balls than I think Najee does. And yeah, he had a little fumble last year problems, but same with Gibson. So if Gibson goes and starts fumbling the ball, I mean, I don't know. I think Stevenson could be okay, and I think Mixon could have at least one more really good year. And having Walker and Charbonnet, that solidifies that. And I don't know. I still believe in Mason.
I'm torn on it. I just think it was a lot to give up. I don't know.
Hard to say how it's going to work. I mean, the truth is, Ron, you could get Stevenson to play the best out of all of them, but hard to know. Hard to know. Look at this. Look at this. SportsCenter releasing this photo right here. This is pretty. I mean, I gotta admit, I'm pretty excited about this. I don't know why. I feel like JSN and Darnold. It didn't worry me. I knew it was going to be the BTJ, and no one else surrounding BTJ and still being able to succeed. But I think this, like, you take away, this is kind of like the Jets, right? The Jets lose Aaron Rodgers, they lose Devontae Adams, and you kind of say, like, man, now I don't know what to think anymore. I'm excited that that's gone, but it doesn't feel good anymore. Like, would it have been better to keep Adams and just get a new quarterback instead of cutting bait on all that and starting over? But then all of a sudden, Fields, maybe Tyler Warren at the 7 pick. You've got Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. Now it's like the Jets look 10 times better than they did. And I think the Seahawks, they trimmed down. Sam Darnold's there. Cooper Kupp's there. And now all of a sudden, this looks better than Geno, DK, and JSN. This looks more dangerous. I'm excited for it. I am. I think Seattle could be a sleeper. I don't know that.
I think it's good for JSN.
I don't know what to think of Darnold. I'm just being completely honest. I don't have a great feel on this because we've seen it go 2 different ways. So, somebody's saying, oh, we've seen him play well. Great. Well, we've also seen him play bad. But to having these 2 options here, I'm kind of pumped for it. I think it could look pretty good. I'm pretty excited. All right, boys. Hey, I'm going to jump because I got to get ready for, oh man. Yeah, we got to go live in about 20 minutes. So I got to hang up 20 to 30. I might be a few minutes late tonight because, I got to get ready for that show.
Really quick, Smitty.
Yeah, real quick because I got to run.
What do you think? Okay, with Kupp there, what do you think the outlook is for Kenny Lightsaber Walker?
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that
in the backfield there.
Let's talk about that at 8 p.m. Bring it up. All right, I'll see you guys on the 8 p.m. show. Appreciate you all. I'll be out of here, but I'll be back. Probably be a few minutes late because this show is wrapping up.